Hello! It's PC building time again, because you all seem to enjoy the last one so much for some reason. Yes, I went off to the mighty people at AliExpress and ordered all sorts of electronic gubbins from which to build a fantastic super-powered gaming machine. That's a lie, they're all really old second-hand parts. You probably guessed this already. Now, I would expect AliExpress to be slightly better than Wish on this kind of stuff because, you know, AliExpress tends more towards the electronic and technical side of things. But let us see what parts I got, and then we can make a decision based on all the exciting documentary evidence that will be presented. In other words, we're going to look through all the parts and then talk about it and build it and see if it works. That's nice and simple, isn't it? So, I went in with a slightly different plan this time. I wanted to see the best PC I could make, well, compatible parts that were the highest end of what I could get would perhaps be a more accurate way of saying it, for £175 all in, including all shipping and all that kind of stuff. So basically, this cost just under £175. In fact, it cost £173.95. That's £1 and 5p I've saved, which I can spend on sweeties and comics. So, let us begin where all computers generally begin, the motherboard. This, oh best beloveds, is an Asus P5QPL-AM, or Asus if you prefer to pronounce it that way for some reason. It's very old, and this seems to have had a fair bit of use over the years. There's a fair bit of mottling and stuff on the side of the ports there. So yeah, this takes a fairly old processor, as we will see in a moment. You're not exactly going to be running the latest games on highest settings through this thing, no matter what graphics card you can manage to squeeze onto it. Yeah, it was £17.13, and the cheapest I could find it on eBay UK was £25, so bit of a bargain there, I think, guys. But yeah, it's a good motherboard, it's a good make, it's solid, it's just not the latest, shall we say, which is a polite way of putting it. Hell, if you look on the back here, yeah, you've got ports there that we don't generally use in this day and age. Also PS2 even for keyboard and mouse. Blimey. Those were the days, weren't they? Well, at least we got it for a decent price, and importantly it did come with the backing plate, which you do need for installing it in the case. I gotta say though, it's yeah, in a bit of a state. Got some sort of, yeah, quite heavy mottling and dirt on it. So that's nice. Anyway, next up, let's look at the mighty processor. Here it is in all its CPU-flavoured glory. This is an E8400 Core 2 Duo. And my god, it's got a lot of transistors in that, because that's how these things work. Yeah, this is one of the higher end of the Core 2 Duo chips from Intel back in the day. Runs at 3 gigahertz. It's all very nice, and back when this was new out, yeah, it would have been a fairly pricey one. It's marked as from 2006 on it, so it's getting on a bit now, to say the least. Do you know how much this was? I shit you not. It cost only £3.83. And I could probably get it 30p cheaper if I've got it off eBay. It's unbelievable, isn't it, that something so precisely made and designed and all that ends up going for like £4. You could have run the entire world off this in 1977, but there we are. Let's not worry about that. Let's look at some RAM. Or memory, if you prefer. This is 2 gigabytes of DDR2, running at 667 megahertz, and look, there's another one as well. It's very low profile, this. Not necessarily a bad thing. Does it mean it heats up more? Probably not. Yeah, it's just the RAM that will work in that. It's also the first item we've had, which isn't obviously second-hand. This is new stuff. And this cost, wait for it, £8.19 for both sticks. Been about the same on eBay UK, so nothing particularly worrying there. I just hope it works. Now, of course, we do need something to keep the processor cool, so I went for this, well, fairly bloody cheap £6.50 processor cooler. Cool Storm squashed box. Yeah, this appears to be brand new. Work on Intel and AMD with all the various adapters and different connectors and bits. And it basically looks like a big weird flower from space, which is always nice, I feel. Yeah, and does appear to be new. So, big old fan copper heatsink. You know how these things work if you've seen PCs and that before, but yeah, really hope this fits onto the motherboard okay and doesn't get in the way of anything else. But there we are. it was not exactly a bank breaker, and that's exactly what I was going for here. So I could spend more money on exciting bits like the graphics card came with this adapter for the power. That's good, isn't it? Anyway, here is the actual thing itself, and my goodness, it doesn't appear to be fake, unlike the one I got from Wish that time. It is a gigabyte card, quite obviously from the massive logo on it. It is a GT730. And it was £22.65. Not exactly going to set the world on fire these days. I mean, it's got HDMI out, so that's something, and VGA to go along with its DVI there. And this is, I think it's a really early revision of it. Yeah, revision 1.0, as the little sticker says. Quite an old one. Now, interestingly, I couldn't match this card on eBay UK. You could get a card basically for exactly the same price, but it has double the RAM. For this, you see, only has 1 gigabyte of RAM, whereas the ones on eBay were 2 gigabyte for the same price. So, well, got done there, didn't I? But never mind, we'll survive with this for a time being. The main thing is it does actually appear to be the card it says it is, so should actually be able to run something 3D without completely faking itself out. Storage time, because you need somewhere to put your operating system and all that gubbins. And this is a King Dian solid-state drive, which it's a make that I have never heard of before in my life. Made by the Shenzhen King Disk Century Technology Company Limited. There's a surprise. Yeah, appears to be brand new. I did a quick check and there's no old data on it or anything. Yeah, King Dian solid state drive. This is 128 gigabytes, which frankly doesn't really cut the mustard this day and age, but hey, it'll be all right. It's probably not the quickest thing in the world either. But then again, neither will the interface be on the old motherboard. So it's not going to necessarily be the end of the world. It'll still be plenty speedy enough for what we're trying to do. How much did this set me back? £18.13. And you can get a name brand one slightly cheaper off Amazon. Now, for storing all your dirty pictures, we have a Seagate drive, quite obviously second-hand. It is a 500 gigabyte Seagate Barracuda 7200 RPM. These pretty speedy by old drive standards, I suppose, but I personally would not be trusting my data to some second-hand hard drive I got sent over from China, frankly, but there we go. It will do for our weird testing purposes today. So, yeah, this was £15.58. And you can get them on eBay for about a £5, so I was stung there again, wasn't I? Blimey. Yeah, I did, of course, quickly run it through a very basic data recovery, and indeed it was full of files. It seemed to have been used pretty much exclusively in a machine that was used just for, as far as I can tell, just for instant messaging, really. It was just a mass of images of instant messenger profiles and those little emoji stickers and things. So that's the thing, isn't it? No amazing state secrets or anything on it. So the cost for this second-hand hard drive and all the data on it, £15.18. Which isn't far off, I suppose. Power supply. Yes, there's got to be electricity coursing through the veins of this beast. And we have a Believe strictly power, continuous power, no noise, high efficiency. Yay. So, as you've probably guessed, this is kind of the same make as the one we had last time. This appears to be the go-to cheap Chinese power supply from these places. I haven't actually opened this one yet. There we are. That's a thing. Yeah, it looks the same as the other one. This one only supplies, I think it was 500 watt, wasn't it? Yes, indeed, 500 watts of raw juice. And yes, it's set to 230 volts. That's quite important before I plug it in. Yeah, how exciting. Has it been damaged in transit at all? Yeah, the corner's a bit mangled, actually. I thought that box didn't seem 100%. Yeah, that's not great, is it? I don't think that's going to harm anything inside, but not really what you want for your PC parts, is it now, guys? This was £22, just over £22.08. You can get equivalent on eBay for about 16, so again, over bloody charged. Now, of course, we need a case, and unbelievably, AliExpress do sell cases. With Wish, didn't sell cases, so I had to get one elsewhere, but nope, this is direct from AliExpress, and yeah, it's cheap. And it's not exactly great looking. It's fairly small. It'll do the job. It's got all your buttons and things on it. The real problem is it wasn't exactly packed very well. They just sent it over in the basic box it came in, and It got the shit smashed out of it, frankly. One of the panels, as you can see here, is all bent up and horrible. And, yeah, the back of it I'm going to have a severe attack with a hammer and a pair of pliers in order to straighten it out. Great. Brilliant. I think what we've learnt here is do not buy your cases direct from AliExpress. This cost £44.70. You can get vaguely similar things on eBay UK for about 40, some of which have a PSU, whereas this one didn't. So, yeah. However, this does have the translucent window at the side, which none of those seem to. So, hey, that's worth having it smashed to shit and taking a month and a half to arrive, isn't it? And finally, something suggested by a friend. He said everything needs a bit of external storage these days, for extra storage and to take things to other places. And I said, you know what? That is a good idea. I'm going to add that to the shopping list. I'm not going to get a monitor, not going to get a keyboard and mouse, but I will take on board your idea of an external hard drive. So I bought this for £15. It's 320 gigabytes, and they cost about the same on eBay UK, actually. So, yeah, but they generally are makes I've heard of before, as opposed to a cases. It's an interesting little device. The plug on it is basic standard USB both ends, which is a rarity, and whoop, out it comes. It's incredibly slow, by the way. It's USB 2, so there we go on that. And it's got an on-off switch, which external drives very rarely do, so that's a little bonus, isn't it? The case is all right. Quite plasticky. I'm not entirely sure it survived much of a drop. Don't want to try it out. Little 2.5-inch hard drive in there. Not the quickest thing in the world, but hey, USB 2, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I ran it through basic data recovery, and it's got very similar stuff on it to the other drive I looked at. Again, seems to have been used pretty much exclusively for instant messaging. Millions and millions of stickers and emojis and just random pictures of Chinese people from profiles. So, well, there we go again. Anyway, time to build this baby. And for some reason, last time people complained that I didn't show me building it, so I'll do that this time, even though it's really boring. Get ready for time lapse. So yeah, PC's built. The side panel and back was beaten back into shape as best I could without spending the rest of my life on it. It ended up looking like this. Quality. Also, it's very rickety because one of the little plastic feet at the bottom had just broken off and got lost somewhere. So that's great, isn't it? Great. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Don't get your cases shipped over from China on the cheap. Anyway, how did it work? You're all asking. Well, the answer is it didn't. Wah, 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 wah. Well, mostly didn't. So, turned it on, power got to it, nothing. Waiting for some beeps from the old motherboard to tell me if there's anything wrong. Of course, there was no speaker, so great, that really helped. Yeah, I suspected the RAM. It was sort of felt like a sort of memory incompatibility or things not working, and indeed, it was the memory. Here it is, look, being all not working. So, yeah, had to do quite a bit of testing. Thank you to friends who gave me old computers and bits I could swap bits out and test with. And we couldn't get these to work on two other motherboards either. But the same type of RAM put in the AliExpress PC worked perfectly. Oh, what's going on, eh? So I was trying to think, is this buffered or something? Because, you know, there's a difference between buffered and unbuffered RAM. But, I mean, you don't really find buffered RAM. I'm sure it just said if it was. You know, I couldn't work it out. Then I remembered. When you ordered this, it actually asked you if you wanted the Intel or AMD versions of it. And I thought it was fairly cross-compatible. You could also get one that apparently worked on both and was a bit more expensive. I went for the Intel one, of course, because it was an Intel-based board. I wonder if they sent me the AMD ones by accident or something. Well, I did try them in an AMD motherboard, and they didn't bloody work in that either. But it just seems statistically unlikely that both of the RAM sticks would be completely dead. You know, it's just very odd. Don't know what's going on there. So I went on eBay UK and ordered replacement RAM for about £7, and that included postage. And it arrived the next day. I don't know why postage is so quick for RAM off eBay, but there we go. And then it worked. And this is how we will continue. Sit in the corner and think about what you did. Unless you're dead, then just don't do anything because you're dead. So, turn it on. Yay, boot it up, put Windows on it, all that kind of stuff. And, well, it was so slow, it was painful. It felt like it kept locking up every so often, which to me implied the SSD was a bit crap. And oh my goodness, was it! You have no idea. So, I ran it through an SSD benchmark, and yeah, this is not a good score. 246 is not a good score. The read on it is 54. So, to give you a bit of comparison, you've got 54 read and 246 overall. And on my actual PC I use for video editing, you've got 1,805 on read and 4,335 overall. So it's a difference between 246 and 4,335. So, I mean, it worked and it had the capacity, it said, but it just... really not a good experience. Be much better off just probably booting off the bloody hard drive that's in it, to be perfectly honest with you. Not impressive at all. So I ran some more of these artificial benchmarks because people like them for some reason. PC Mark came through at 2421, which is sort of what you'd expect from a computer of that era, really. 3D Mark 3493, which again, with that graphics card, that computer, yeah, that's pretty much what one would expect. But the important thing was, could I play PUBG on it? Well, it installed and it ran. All the settings were down absolute minimum. Yeah, it still ran like shit. I mean, really ran like shit. Didn't help with the old SSD thing. By the time it had loaded in and I could play, the game had already begun. And I was stuck in a corner because the bloody airplane you come in on had gone off the edge of the map and just dropped me out. Not a good experience at all. So there we are. For considerably more money than you would pay just by buying a second-hand one on eBay, and that'd probably come with a bloody monitor, a mouse and keyboard and stuff, you too can have your own incredibly disappointing PC with RAM that doesn't work correctly. Hooray! What an experience this has been for all of us. Well, so, in conclusion, don't do this. But all I can say, really, yeah, just buy like a second-hand one off eBay or something. There's just no point in spending ages waiting for these cheap parts to come across from abroad. They're all second-hand, same as you'd get here anyway, with the exception of non-working RAM and terrible SSD. Yeah, and you just end up with a computer and a bent-up case that you don't want to use, really. Yeah. Well, who would have thought that this would be a complete waste of time? The answer, of course, is everyone.
Subscribe for more.